Hello everyone, this is HR Perspective, and today we have with us Ms. Lyn Hadjula Legarde. She is the country human resource head at Alaska Milk Corporation, which is a company of Friesland Campina. Welcome, Lyn. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my insights and thoughts.
And because of the fact that Lyn is a very experienced human resource professional, we are going to speak about the things she's more passionate about, which is diversity and inclusion, and also the rewards and benefits factor, which comes around with organizations. So today's topic is reshaping the vitality of employee rewards and recognition, and with a bolder outlook on diversity and inclusion. So, Lyn, I want to start with the fact that, employees and the rewards and recognition, that the strategy that have been planned for them have its role in actually boosting the business growth. But however, many organizations, just to choose to go without it. So, what do you think about this strategy of organizations?
So I think no, it's very important to have a look at exactly what is the role of rewards in both rewards and recognition. No, when it comes to driving employee performance, that eventually rebounds to the organization and the business's growth. Right. So I think that's very important. The second is not all, because I can imagine, no, most organizations or businesses would say that it's very expensive to really, boost their rewards and recognition program. But to me, at the end of the day, there are three underlying principles that's important. Okay. So the first one is looking at your organization in terms of the personas in the team, right? So because not everyone is a high maintenance, or not everyone would be married, would have 10 kids and all of that, right? So the different personas in the organization would also be a determinant in terms of what's the shape and what's the look of the rewards and recognition programs that we would have. The second is, having a listening strategy and getting the insights from people as well, right? So
Yeah.
I know companies will say, that they always want to have more salary or better benefits, etc. No? But if we don't really listen and get the insights from our employees, it will always be an assumption. So it's very important to have that listening strategy so that we can get the insights and then customize and tailor fit your rewards and recognition program based on the personas and based on the insights that, right? The last for me is that there are a lot of ways that we can make it not about money all the time, right?
Right, right.
So when we look at rewards and when we look at recognition, no, sometimes it's about how do you then motivate people in terms of progressing in an organization via talent development.
Correct.
How many people would like to be coached by their current managers? It might even be as simple as um, saying thank you every time, right?
Correct.
Or
Yeah.
greeting your employees good morning every time, right? So again, it's not all about money, when we talk of rewards and recognition. And that's the reason why I always put it combined together. Because recognizing is not always about money, and rewarding is not always about.
Absolutely agree, because a lot of organizations, as you said, they actually hesitate to bring out a proper strategy because they think R&R does require money, and that money is a compulsion for it, while it's actually not. A simple pat on the back, or a thank you, or you're doing well, will actually work wonders, and that's absolutely true.
True.
And
And like for me, just an example, no? My team loves it when I cook. So I just bring like a pack of chocolates to them. They're super happy already. Right? So sometimes it's just simple things like that. No? And I call it the 1%. Sometimes this 1% is the one that actually runs the most or has the longest runway.
correct, correct, and it can have the greatest impact as well. So, which is absolutely true. And we also know that despite a lot of attempts from companies and organizations into this R&R, these strategies fall. I mean, the strategies actually fail to make the expected impact because of the way they execute it. And many a times what happens is that more than what we do, how we do matters. Okay, so which aspects do you become part of a positive and effective employee reward and recognition strategy according to you?
True. So, I mean, I'm going to anchor to what I said earlier. Remember the listening strategy, right? So,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's looking at rewards nowadays, no, both rewards and recognition, and even other HR interventions. It's not a top down initiative anymore,
Yeah.
right? So you really need to get the insights from the people. Why? Because your rewards and recognition, your HR intervention has to be relevant to the employees, right?
Right.
So that's one.
Absolutely.
And the only way to get that is if you actually talk to them and get their insights, right? The second is, again, one size does not fit all. So the different personas I mentioned, that's very, very important because in the reality nowadays, no? So for example, to me, life insurance and health insurance coverage because I have a family is important.
Correct.
But to the younger generation, maybe to you, gym membership is much more important than the health coverage, right?
Yeah.
So again, different personas may have different needs, and we need to make sure that one size does not fit all anymore. And gym membership, I'm sure, is much more cheaper than a health insurance coverage, right?
Yes.
So again, at the end of the day, being able to balance that, right, and how to make that more flexible as well is very, very important. So listening strategy, and looking at the different personas because one size does not fit all, that actually helps tremendously when it comes to the deployment, right? The last element, and sorry, because I always think in threes. The
Yeah.
last element is all about stakeholder engagement, right? So at the end of the day, you need to ensure that from the very start till the very end, right? All the different stakeholders are informed, either informed or if you need the approval, etc. So stakeholder mapping is very, very important when it comes to any deployment, right? So
Okay.
and to me, especially, no, engaging your stakeholders from the very start, especially on design, that's a huge buy-in already. Because if they have a say in how it's gonna be or what it's gonna be, then you have a higher level of success.
I agree. Right, right. And when we're talking about stakeholders being a part of the entire strategy and everything, so what role do you think they actually have in R&R?
So, like what I said, no, it's more again different individuals, right? So, and depending what the lens is we're looking at when it comes to stakeholders. Okay,
Okay.
normally in rewards and recognition, the biggest stakeholder all the time will be the employees. So, if the benefits or the reward or the recognition program is relevant to them, of course you will get a high buy-in, right?
Right.
Aside from that, it's also to me the line managers or the people managers in the organization. Why? Because it's a matter of the communication. And for example, it's about leaves. You have a very good leave policy, right? Vacation leave, sick leave, etc. But if your line manager can't explain it, if the line manager says, no, you need to work, then you have a crappy policy as well, right? So
Yeah.
you'll have a crappy benefit as well, right?
Yeah.
So the capability, understanding, and engagement of people managers is very, very important. And then, of course, the third and last one, no, whoever approves the budget, right? So that is very, very important. And to me, the engagement for that is ensuring that they are aware from the very beginning that this is the plan, this is what we're gonna do, etc. So just to share with you an example, early in the year, for my organization, we've already presented what are the plans in terms of changes or shifts in our employee benefits and in
Okay.
our different policies like company car, promotions, etc. So the management team knew that that's going to happen within this year. So this next 2 weeks, actually, we're just going to get the approval and sign off. That's it. So we have them from the start. They are well aware. People that needs, okay, I need your input on sales incentive from the
Right.
sales director.
Right.
Fantastic, right? So hopefully the next 2 weeks, no, well, we had a first round already for one program, which is a retirement program. So we had a good sign off. So
Okay.
again, no, hopefully I'm praying that the next approvals would also be good sign. So
Yes. Okay.
again, the approvals for the stakeholders, the approvers, engaging them from the very start.
we have spoken about how R&R is important, how stakeholders have a role in it, etc. So, we also know that it's very important to include everybody in, a strategy or something, which brings us to, the inclusion part of organizations and employees. So, what happens is that the mechanism of work, the type of employees that are welcomed, and the behavior that is fostered in the company, is also, actually, all of these things actually stem from the company's culture, the core of the company. Okay, and we know how equality at workplace is important, and what bolder actions should be implemented. So what do you actually think are these bolder actions, and to be able to create a long lasting inclusive culture, so that the inclusive behavior is also promoted?
Um, I will always start my response to this as having an unconscious bias, right? So when you look at inclusion and diversity, you cannot have inclusion unless you open your mind and open your hearts.
Right.
And is what is integral to that is actually unconscious bias. No, we need to make the unconscious bias conscious. Okay, the reality is all of us would have unconscious bias, right?
Yes.
Because of the way we're brought up, because of where we studied, because of our families, of our cultures, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Of our gender preference, our gender, you know, all of that, impacts the biases that we have. And
Right.
the reality is everyone, there's no, if someone tells me that they don't have any unconscious bias, I will never believe,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
right, so our perceptions and our thinking has been influenced by a lot of things, no?
Yeah.
And that that in those influences actually contributes to our unconscious bias. What is important is that we need to unlock that. We need to be conscious of our unconscious bias, because only in being conscious would we have the lens to see differently. We would have the lens to see inclusion, and we would have the lens to actually accept diversity, right?
Yeah.
So unlocking or being conscious of the unconscious bias is very, very important. And that's already a huge step,
Right.
right? So when
Absolutely.
people say we prioritize female, we prioritize race, etc., or gender preference,
Yeah.
etc. No? Yeah, true. I mean, it's consciously having the focus, but at the end of the day, some organization will say, we're focusing on female empowerment, etc., etc. But then you look at the merit increase percentages this of females versus males, and you can see there's a huge discrepancy. So to me, that's really not, yes, you have focus, you have interventions on female, blah blah blah, KPI on female, etc., but your promotion increases 10% is the gap between a male and a female. That's not what, really having a focus on inclusion and
Inclusion.
diversity.
You have to
So
act on it.
yeah, so unconscious bias is a key one, no? And it's that driver that will really unlock a lot of things.
We also know the fact that there is a overall very slow growth in diversity, and which is actually masking a growing polarization among organizations. And some are even actually slipping backwards, as you said, about the gender gap and everything, while some others are actually making some commendable progress. So what do you think are the ways to actually fuel diversity?
Yeah. So the first one I already mentioned, no? So apologies, I will say it again and again because I'm really an advocate of unconscious bias. So that in itself is a huge step already, right? So that's one, the first one. The second to me is make inclusion and diversity a business strategy. It is not an HR strategy. It has to be a business strategy. The reason why it has to be a business strategy, because it cuts across different processes, different systems, different projects, different programs. It cuts different levels in the organization, right? So inclusion and diversity should be a business strategy. It's not an HR strategy alone.
Right.
The third one to me is having focus, right? So I really admire organizations that they really articulate and say, no, we're going to focus on gender neutrality. We're going to focus or gender equity. We're going to focus on female empowerment. We're
Yeah.
going to focus on LGBT, right? So
Mhm.
I think, especially organizations that are big,
Mhm.
right? So that it's sometimes very difficult to really deploy programs.
Right.
Having focus on 1 to 2, which are integrated with your business strategy, is
Mhm.
very, very important. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's as simple as changing your male comfort rooms or bathrooms or washrooms and female bathrooms or washrooms to having one that's both a gender neutral, a male female bathroom.
We were earlier mentioning about rewards and benefits. So what do you think is the role between diversity and inclusion and rewards and benefits?
I a few weeks ago, I think last month, no, I actually was in a regional conference, and they asked me to talk about rewards and recognition vis-a-vis inclusion and diversity. So of course I had to talk about unconscious bias, etc. No? So, but also aside from that, no, when you look at the different pillars and the different processes of rewards and recognition, you can already slip in or put that juxtaposed together with inclusion and diversity. So
Okay.
again, depending on what the strategy is, right? So do we want to focus on women? So then you look at your merit increases, make the analysis, make sure that it's not biased, right? So that
Yeah.
that it's targeted in terms of that as well. No? Or when it comes to workplace, for example, currently workplace experience is with rewards and recognition, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at workspace experience, right? So I mentioned about the bathroom or the washroom, right? So a gender neutral bathroom washroom is already a big step when it comes to inclusion and diversity, right?
Yes.
And so I talked about unconscious bias, and then I talked about juxtaposing rewards and recognition with inclusion and diversity.
Diversity. Yeah.
I think the third element is uh, being how do you say it now? Getting insights from data. So normally, when you look at HR, when you look at rewards, no, we are the ones that, or rewards is the one that's really driving data-driven decision making, right? So it's very important to juxtapose inclusion and diversity.
Right.
Also, vis-a-vis talent management. So all those three combined together, it's going to be very, very powerful. But the only way to do that is to really drive data decision making. So to do that, you need to really be more data driven when it comes to for different interventions, rewarding or segmenting talents, etc. No? And then that actually the inclusion diversity is the one that brings them all together.
There's a strong need to actually maintain a balance between the personal and professional lives, especially for women. We have to do, women have to do the household chores and, take care of the families and, of course, concentrate on their work as well. So, what are the ways to ensure that this merge doesn't hinder either of them?
Uh, Very interesting question, because I also look at it not just in terms of our roles in the family or in the organization, right? But also our own personal self love, right? So I would call it that. No? So my example is that I am always very transparent, and I always say it what it is. What do I mean by that? 12 to 1 is blocked in my calendar because that is my lunchtime with my family, and that's non-negotiable, right? So and I'm very transparent, share that with my team, so my team knows and they give that respect now.
Right.
If it's an emergency, of course, that's okay, right?
It's
So but on a
understandable.
general rule, no, right? So that's fully, right? So and they know because it's my time with my family. It's my time to have lunch with my kids. They also have online school. That's the only time that we can all eat together, right?
Yeah.
Um, the other one, aside from being very transparent and being able to communicate it, the other one is I say it, not doing the things that you like to do, right? So that's very, very important. So, for example, I love to read. No? So, as part of my self love, I actually bought a Kindle, and the Kindle is my best friend for life, right?
Wow. Okay.
So every 5-10 minutes, if I have a chance, no, in between meetings, I read one chapter of a book that I would like to read, right? Or that I'm currently reading. So doing something that you love doing is important. On weekends or on Friday night, I cook. So because I love to cook. So that's something that okay, I want to do this. Yeah, I think the third one also is, and especially now, no, you want to see your family, you want to see your friends, and all of that, no. I look at it at a different lens. Also, I normally connect with people who I don't normally connect,
Okay.
right? So my friends who are in another country or on a different time zone, just spending what 30 minutes just to catch up. Hello, how you are, no? What are you doing? What's with work, etc. No? So that you can also experience something different because especially on this remote working, lockdown, and all of that, no, experiencing something new is not available. Where it's very routinary. You wake up at 7 in the morning, you take a bath, you open your laptop, you start work. Then you break for lunch, then you start again, then you finish your meeting, then you have dinner. So it's very routinary. So doing something new is very, very important. Or learning something new is very, very important. So I am really happy also to see, in LinkedIn, I see a lot of people that I am certified this, certified that, etc. Right? So which is it's an
Yeah.
opportunity to learn something, right? So before we don't have time for that. Now at least,
Yeah,
no,
we have.
we
Yeah.
can. So exactly, right? So I think that's also very, very important.
You have spoken about all these things, and we know in the past that you have worked for a lot of years in the HR domain itself. So, what does HR actually mean to you?
Of course, I love it in threes, no? So HR to me is helping people help themselves. It's about empowerment, it's about capability building, it's about capability development. It's not about me, but it's about helping people to be able to help themselves, to be able to grow and to reach for their dreams. Okay. HR to me also means care. No? With my current company, we call it hashtag Alagang Alaska. And what that means locally is that it's the care of our Alaska is the organization. So it's the care of Alaska. So in everything that we do, all projects or programs that we have, it emanates from our people and it's because we actually care for them. So the care emanates from our people and because we actually care for them, right? And last to me, HR is about people.
Okay.
It's not about KPIs, it's not about timeliness on payroll, but it's really about focusing on the individual, the different individuals or personas in the organization, and how we reinforce building them, developing them as individuals so that they can actually perform to the best of their abilities, be able to contribute to the organization, be able to contribute to the business and to the company's purpose for the whole world, right? So
Right. So, what do you think is the one key skill that HR professionals need to learn for this, rapidly changing business paradigms?
can I say three, not one?
Absolutely, yeah,
So I think the first one, no, is compassionate enforcing. At the end of the day, it's balancing task and relationship because it's not just about driving projects alone, but ensuring that there's humanity, right? So that humanity is preserved and it's actually celebrated, right? The next for me would be commercial acumen, insights, and data driven decision making. Even as HR, or even if HR is considered a soft function, because it's a support function, right? It's humanizing the organization and all of that. But HR should be integrated to the business, should be have that seat in the table. So HR needs to understand the business language,
yeah.
right? And be able to balance that with the ability to listen to our employees, listen to the different personas in the organization, gather those insights, and make business decision making based on those insights is actually very imperative at this point in time. Okay. And then the last to me is agile working. Okay. Nowadays, it's no longer the traditional linear work, no, that actually
Absolutely.
thrives, no, remote working. Exactly, right? So you in sitting there in India, me
Yeah.
here in Manila, right? So we need to break the mold. No, efficiency is no longer the name of the game, right? So it's about effectiveness, and it's about how can we future proof our organization, the business, our employees, as we ourselves in HR, we also need to be agile and future proof
Absolutely.
ourselves. Thank you very much also for the invitation. Really appreciate. I enjoyed the session. So thank you very much, and I'm really very happy that I'm able to share some of my insights, and hopefully a lot would be able to learn from it and can
Right.
actually use it, no, for better HR for their organization.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.